Hello everyone, welcome back to Turing Machine. We're going to play another one on hard, not this time on extreme. It was a fun challenge, and I'm sure I'll play another one of those eventually. But today I don't really have time for that kind of level of faffery, I guess. So we're just going to play on hard. As usual, the code to play this one yourself is in the chat and should be in the video description, but I always put it in the chat in case I forget to put it in the video description. And also, at least once, I had to go look at the chat in my video to figure out what should go in the video description because I'd closed the page. So there you go. That's for me as much as for you. With that, if you want, of course, pause the video, play yourself. But we're going to get started, assuming you're back or you don't want to play along. So we can check blue compared to 3, sum of blue and yellow, ascending or descending. The sum of two colors is definitely 6. Well, it can't be blue and yellow, because this would be redundant. And it tells me whether one of the colors is 1. Fascinating. So, okay, I mean, the first thing we can do is say that blue plus yellow is not 6. That's something, I guess, D is telling us. I mean, sorry. They could be 6, but D can't be telling us that. So something other than blue and yellow adds to 6. Could that happen if there were a sequence of 3 numbers in ascending or descending order? Yes, we could have 4 and 2. Then it would have to be blue and purple that added to 6, of course. That's interesting. If there were 3 ascending or descending numbers, then this would have to tell me it's blue and purple that sum to 6. And this would be redundant, right? Because I would know that all the numbers are greater than 1. I would have 4 and 3 and 2. So there are no 3 numbers in a sequence. No 3 sequence. Now, again, there could be a sequence. No, in this case, there couldn't, because this is a simple card. There's no way there could be a sequence of 3 and this telling me something else. So we do actually know there is no sequence of numbers that's 3 long in ascending or descending order. What else? There's some kind of interplay between B and D in addition to what I've already written down. I can't quite put my finger on it, and I'm not sure how big it is, but the idea is that since D can't be talking about blue and yellow, it must be talking about two other colors. Or, sorry, a different pair of colors. But that pair still has to include either blue or yellow. Right? It's purple and something. Actually, let's write it down this way. This is a way better way to write it. Purple X equal 6. Purple and something is 6. And whatever that thing is, let's just say for argument's sake that it's blue. I was going to say green. There's no green. It doesn't exist. Say that it's blue. Purple and blue is 6. This tells us how blue and yellow relate to 6. And so, in a way, this tells me how yellow relates to purple, right? Because, I mean, this isn't going to happen, but let's say that... Oh, wait a minute. Let's say that B told me, oh yeah, blue and yellow, those are 6. We would know that blue and yellow add to 6, and so do, I'm assuming, again, purple and blue. So that means purple and yellow are the same, because both of them, when added to blue, yield 6. Which seems interesting. Yeah, I don't know. So, B and D together are going to tell me how purple compares to one of blue or yellow, but I don't know which. Okay. I wonder why it's going to be helpful to tell me that a specific number is or is not 1. I guess because there will be sequence constraints that causes. I mean, I guess there could be summing constraints as well. Like if it tells me the sum is, I don't know, whatever. Okay, so I think these are the only two obvious deductions that I can make here. I mean, I guess that's not quite true. If blue were greater than 3, it would be at least 4. So it would be difficult for B to tell me less than 6 or equal to 6, but not impossible, of course. Right? We could have 4-1 or 4-2. Yeah. I don't know. Let's start asking questions. E is the one I'd like to include in the most queries because it has the most possibilities. In fact, let's draw in lines for E. I don't want to do it for everything because I can, for most of these, I can write down fairly pithy statements about what I know. But E, there's just too many things. So we know something about D and C already. So let's try to get A, B, and E in this query. Let's choose a small blue, but not 1. And choose a yellow that makes it add up to 6, because that seems interesting. And then for C, let's just throw another 4 in there and see if there's no sequence. Oops, not that button, this button. So, E, what do you got? It says yes. So we know then... Well, now I already want to delete these. I guess I should have realized that given this was the question I was going to ask, that something is greater than 1. That's what E cares about. Okay, easy enough. So we can't be getting a clue that something is a 1. That's now become impossible. Telling us something is greater than 1. Huh. That is kind of interesting, isn't it? Not only are we going to be told something is greater than 1, but that information must be necessary to solve the puzzle. So there must be some case where 1 could solve the puzzle, but because of this, it's illegal. I mean, obviously this is true every time you learn anything from a verifier, but this is not very much information, right? So when you get told, oh, there's a very small amount of information, but it'll still be necessary to solve the puzzle, I don't know, that seems interesting. Let's check out A now. Yes, blue is less than 3. That's interesting. So that's an example. Oh, I should write down my... Oops. I got a check mark here. And I asked E and I got an X. So here's an example of one easy way that knowing something is greater than 1 would be important, is if there's no other way to distinguish between blue being 2 and blue being 1. Now, here's an interesting fact. If blue is restricted to 1 and 2, the number of different sums you could get from blue and yellow is pretty small, right? Like, what am I saying? They can't sum to anything very large. The most they could be is 7. So it'd be difficult for them to be greater than 6. I think I still want to ask B, but... Okay, they're not equal to... They don't sum to 6. Actually write this in before I forget. Blue and yellow is not exactly 6. So either they're greater than 6, and we have blue being specifically 2, and yellow being specifically 5. Or they're less than 6, and we have a lot more options. Let's investigate a little bit. Do we think it's possible that this could say greater than 6? Because that would be very limiting, right? We would know, okay, blue is less than 3. Well, blue is 2, yellow is 5. We would know that much for sure in this universe. And we'd know that purple is either 1 or 4 in order to have this sum be correct. And this would tell us which one it is, wouldn't we? Yeah, so then these two would be redundant. If this tells us that blue and yellow sum to more than 6, there are 2 redundant verifiers. Because just this plus this would give me 2, 5, and this would give me the last digit. Okay, so actually we can say that they must sum to less than 6. We've solved B. Okay. So yellow then can't be 5. Because if it were, we would have either greater than 6 with 5-2 or exactly 6 with 5-1. And we know those are both impossible. Purple. So we know that purple is in between blue and yellow, I think, right? It has to be. No, that's not correct. We know it's greater than one of the two of them, right? Like, it could be greater than Y if, like, blue were 1 and yellow were 1 and then purple were 5 or something, right? There are other reasons that I think it would be impossible, but that could be the idea. Is if we found out that D is telling us purple and blue are 6, then we would know purple is quite large because we know blue is quite small, right? Purple would have to be 4 or 5. So knowing how long a sequence there is going to be necessary to solve this. How could that be? There's numerous ways, I think. Well, okay, so I'd like to obviously keep working away on E. And I'd like, I think, for blue to be the only one, because I think that's most likely to tell. I think this is probably going to tell me blue is greater than 1, because that's way more information. But I don't know. I guess So here's some thoughts about information density, I guess, that I'm having. This card, it could give you a lot of information if it tells you a specific color is specifically exactly 1. That's a lot of information. Or it could give you a small amount of information if it tells you this color is not 1. That's, 100% of the information about a color or 20% of the information about a color, right? But I think there's nothing like inherently meaning that it's more likely that verifiers will give you more information or less information. Because we know that these five verifiers' criteria are exactly enough to pinpoint a code, it's not so much that each verifier wants, is inclined to give you more information or is inclined to fall into the area that is most likely. If you just looked at these and said, well, which is more likely? That a number is 1 or that a number is more than 1? Obviously, it's more likely that a number is more than 1. But that's not really necessarily what you should think about. Rather, you might say, how close to solving the puzzle would these 4 verifiers get me? And if you think they're giving you a lot of information, then this probably doesn't give you a lot of information either. It probably just gives you a little. Right? In some sense? So, we don't know yet whether these are giving us a lot of information or a little. Although it kind of looks like they might be on the a lot side, because this is telling me blue is small, right? And this isn't telling me, oh yeah, there's a sequence of size 3, which would be the a lot side of information. So I think this is sort of inclined to give me a lot of information, maybe? which would be pinpointing a 1. But I don't know. I guess maybe even more. It's likely... If it tells me what yellow or purple is, that, like, solves... If it tells me yellow or purple are 1, well, but it can't. We already know. It's not telling us something is 1. Right. But if it tells us blue is 1, that's kind of a small amount of information. Sorry, blue is greater than 1 is a lot of information. Because it tells us it eliminates half of the remaining possibilities for blue. And if it tells us one of these is greater than 1, it's only eliminating 20% of the remaining possibilities for that color. So there is still this information density argument, I think. I don't know. I still think I want to test like this. I think it's sort of... I don't know. I don't have to explain myself to you. It makes sense to me, but not in a way I can articulate very well, despite my efforts. Oh, I didn't... Normally I put this down here when I've solved it. Okay. Let's... make yellow... No, not yellow. Let's make purple 5? So that I can ask this one whether yellow and purple... Did I really not ask D anything that round? I guess not. I had a lot of things that were 3 possibilities. Yeah, that... Okay, fine. And D only has 2, really, because it can't be telling me the left side. Right, that's why I delayed that. So 1, 4, 5, where does that put me on the verifiers I haven't solved, which are C, D, and E? For C, it's fine. It'll tell me whether or not there's a 2 sequence. Ascending. For D, it'll tell me whether it's blue plus purple or yellow plus purple that's 6. And for E, it'll get me down to either 1 or 2 possibilities. Okay. Let's ask E first. Nope, let's write down my question first. That is a no. Which means... It must be telling me that blue is greater than 1, right? Yes. So I have solved E. And we can cross that off and circle this bad boy. Blue is 2. Okay. That's strange. Well, is it strange? Because think about this. Now I've solved D as well, right? Because D... No, I have I? I haven't, right? Blue is 2. Well, okay, for starters, that means yellow isn't 4. Because we know their sum is less than 6. But if D tells me that blue and purple are 6, then I know purple is 5, right? And then surely I would have some redundant verifier there? I'm not sure, though. Because if I knew I had 2x4 as my code, I would be using A. I'd be using D. And I'd be using E. So would either B and C be redundant in that case? 2x4. Well, C in that case couldn't be telling me that there is a sequence. Because then yellow could be either 3 or 1, and there'd be no way to disambiguate. So C would have to be telling me there is a sequence. Sorry, isn't a sequence. But I guess I would still need B to tell me, right? Because the only reason I know that yellow isn't 4 is because of B. So 244 seems legal. And I would need B to tell me, no, actually, that's not okay. So maybe D could tell me that that blue and purple are 6. Maybe that's just the amount of information that I need. So could it be telling me that purple and yellow are 6? Maybe that's not enough information. I'd have blue is 2 from this and this. And I'd have these two adding to 6, which we can consider like starting yellow at 1 and blue at 5, and then kind of consider all the cases by just moving the dial on both columns. So is there some reason 215 would be a problem? No sequences could rule that out. Two, 2, 4? Seems totally possible. I don't think there's any way I could rule that out. Except, well, I couldn't rule that out or prove it, really. Could I? How could I prove that the sum is 224? I guess if 23x were illegal, right? Because of the no sequence rule. So what about 233? If that were the code, could I prove it? Or could I... This would be telling me there is a sequence. I don't think this is... Yeah. I think it's possible D could tell me either one of these things. Because if it tells me blue and purple, I just barely get there. And if it tells me yellow and purple, I think I can ask enough questions to narrow it down to a single solution. I think. But let's ask C? Why am I asking C? If it tells me there is a sequence, what does that accomplish for me? Hang on. I think I was a little bit confused earlier. If I learn that yellow and purple sum to 6, I'm actually not so sure that I can solve the puzzle. Because... no, B would tell me, right? I was thinking that I can't tell 224 and 242 apart. Because they both don't have a sequence. But B is how I would distinguish those. All right, I think whatever D tells me, C is going to be important. So let's ask C, and then maybe that solves D for me. That is a no on C. So C is solved now. There's no three sequence, and there's no two sequence either. Ah! Deleted the wrong thing. So that means then the yellow can't be 3 or 1 because that would be a sequence. So yellow is also 2. Oh, that's funny. So no matter what D tells me, it's going to be purple plus something to equal 6. So I haven't solved D. And in some sense, you could almost say, gosh, isn't D superfluous? Because you don't need to know what its criteria is to solve the puzzle. But you do. You need to know it's one of these two things. 224. Yeah, this meets all the criteria that I've written. And I think uniquely, blue has to be 2. And yellow can't be 4 or bigger because of B. And there can't be a sequence because of C. Then yellow is also 2. Yeah, this looks right to me. I'm just going to write in 224. Just funny that this one, like... it feels almost redundant, but actually isn't. It's actually key. There's no way I could solve without this. Anyway, 224. Let me just key that bad boy in. 224. This is the correct code. Great. So I got yes, no, yes from ABE. And then in round 2, I got no's from C and E. How do you do, machine? 3 rounds, 6 questions. Oh, that's interesting. No, 3 rounds, 8 questions. I misread. Okay, much, much better. What did I do that was so smart? I might have just gotten lucky querying to find out that blue is 2 with so few asks. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, There was some skill, maybe, but... Okay, cool. So that's my score. 2 rounds and 5 questions. Take that. As always, if you see something I missed, I'm happy to hear about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.